Bang, bang, bang. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting of 2025. Happy New Year, all. As you can tell, this is a joint meeting of the Lower Merchant River MAC and Coastal MAC. But I'm going to call the meeting to order. So the first thing is Spanish interpreter might have something to say here.
Ricardo. And Ricardo, can you hear us?
I'm not feeling very official. It will.
Are you there? Can you come in, please? Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me? I can't hear anything at the moment.
Can you hear us?
No.
The agenda.
None of it. Can you hear us now, Ricardo? Can we text him and?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, other people on the call here?
If the folks at Sea Ranch or other people online can hear us, can you raise your hand? Sea Ranch can hear us. I'm Sea Ranch. And yeah, okay, so Ricardo, I think that has to do with.
Yeah.
Refine what?
And the mute us.
Hello, I can hear you now. So
Oh,
sorry,
great.
I had technical difficulties. Would you like me to make the announcement?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
Okay, thank you so much. Buenas noches, bienvenidos a nuestra reunión. Para quienes necesiten interpretación, este seminario ofrece traducción simultánea al español. Para acceder al canal de español en Zoom, siga estos pasos. En la barra de herramientas de Zoom, haga clic en el icono del globo etiquetado Interpretación. Lo puede hacer haciendo clic en el círculo con 3 puntos. Luego seleccione el idioma español. Si prefiere no escuchar el audio original, puede seleccionar silenciar audio original para una traducción más clara. Para los que asisten en persona y deseen un auricular de interpretación, pueden dirigirse directamente al personal del Distrito 5. Muchas gracias y esperamos que disfruten de la reunión.
Gracias. Do I have a volunteer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All like. Pledge of Allegiance. Hey, let's do a roll call. We'll do the River Mac first. Here. Here.
Joe Roca,
Here.
Spencer Scott,
Here.
Betsy Van Dyke. Here. Craig Baker. Oh, wait, I wasn't gonna do you on roll call. You will do that after.
Yes.
Vicky Hughes, here. Lonnie Lizone,
Here.
Carrie Hernandez. Here. Okay, and then for the Coast map, we do not have that. Scott Foster,
Here.
John Laughlin.
Here.
We do not have Caroline. We do not have Jim with it. Scott Nevin.
He's waving.
Okay.
Here.
Here I am. Oh, and Basin one.
Okay, we're gonna, observe a moment of silence to honor the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter. President Carter's lifelong commitment to public service, humanitarian effort, and leadership continues to inspire communities across the nation. This observance reflects our respect and gratitude for the country and the world. Plus, he's a good guy. Okay, we're gonna move for approval of the agenda with the addition of one item. So we'll approve the agenda with, but the River Mac will need to vote on someone's remote attendance, due to, Craig Baker, due to emergency circumstances. If I can get someone to put a motion forward to accept that he had to. And I need a second. Great, thank you. And then, does anyone want to move to approve the agenda with that change? Great, thanks.
So that's Joe, and then.
I'm sorry, I did have one. You have Mike Nichols on here instead of.
Yeah, I know, for some reason, they reverted back to the old one.
Okay, okay, great.
So that was the approval of the agenda,
Yeah,
but now that item that was just added
Yeah.
is what we're gonna do next.
Yeah. so I, no, we already did. We just did it in reverse order.
We have to approve it, we have to add it to the agenda and when we have to do it.
Oh, okay.
So let's just do it again. And then we also have to just have Craig.
Anyone want to make a motion that it's okay for Craig to do it remotely? Given emergency.
What's the added item? I wasn't real 100% clear on.
Craig can't be here, because of emergency circumstances, and because of, and we'll learn more about the Brown Act and things. There's only certain reasons that you can not be here in person. He does have an emergency situation, so we need to make a motion to approve if it's okay for him. Sure.
So Joe,
We need to vote,
and then who was the second?
everybody. We need to vote this year.
And we need to vote. In some cases you don't, and in other cases you do.
You want a roll call?
And we do have to all roll call indeed.
Okay,
So, and this is just for the river map.
Yep.
Pitt,
yes,
Tony.
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Spencer,
yes.
Betsy. Yes. Vicky. Yes. Lonnie,
Yes.
Carrie. Yes. Okay.
And then, Greg, I just want you to confirm that you're the only one in the room.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We're gonna move to, conflict of interest. If anyone on either one of the council has any conflict with anything on the agenda, now it's time to raise your hand. No? Okay, we're gonna move to council member comment and introduction. So it'd be nice if it's our first meeting for each one of you, and we can just go in order of the table and then go through more of who you are. And also, if you have anything that's not on the agenda that you'd like to bring up, keep in mind you need to keep that short, and we won't have a discussion about that issue. So why don't we start with Betsy down?
I'm sorry.
Introduce yourself, where you back.
Sorry. All that happened. My name is Betsy Van Dyke. I am the representative of Burnville South, and Huggy Canyon, which includes Drake and Neely Roads, and I filled in a position that was with me for a long time, and I'm in the second year, 2 years. appointment.
Great.
I'm Carrie Hernandez. I'm sitting in, I'm an alternate, representing Forestville. I'm sitting in tonight as an alternate for Ty. This is my first meeting. Yay.
Welcome.
I'm Vicki Clues and I represent Hacienda, which includes the neighborhoods of Hollydale, Terrace, Summerhill Park. And this is the beginning of my second and last term.
I'm Joe Rogoff, I represent Kernville, this is also the beginning of my second.
And we have a first for a man, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about yourself and what you're doing here.
Yeah, my name is Baby Mora. I'm a junior at Animal High School in Festival. I'm the junior high school student representative. I'm looking forward to being part of this new position and giving the youth outlook on community issues. Thank you for having me.
I'm Debbie Ramirez, staff to the MAC, clerk to the MAC, and field representative for supervisor health.
Hi everyone, I'm Spencer Scott, I'm a representative for Kernville, my second year as well.
I'm Marquez Plata, I'm the representative for Rio Nido. And I have been on the MAC since its inception.
You're the OGs.
Yeah.
I'm Jenny Nichols, and I represent the day-to-day, and I've been on the MAC, I think this is my second term, or third.
It gets
Getting blurred, but, right, it's lovely to meet everybody here. Don't know many of the people MAC people, so very nice to meet you.
I'm John Laughlin. I'm an alternate representing the day-to-day.
Hi, I'm Tony Goodwin, I represent Casadero and Duncansville. I think this is my third term. And I'd like to give a shout out to my alternate Perry, who I asked, she's also gonna help, we're gonna be a good team this year, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Lonnie Lazar. I'm a representative from Forestville, beginning my second term.
Craig?
Yes. So I am a alternate for Patty Thayer and in the Monterey Villa Grande area. And anything else you want me to say at this time?
No, that's great.
Okay.
Can I get it? I think I got everyone.
And then at the post MAC, we have Scott Nevin and Scott Foster.
Oh, why don't we go Foster, and we'll go alphabetically.
Any sound?
Can you hear
Yes.
us?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Can you hear us? Up, down, can you hear me?
Can you hear us? Nope.
Go ahead.
Oh, it says we can hear you. Okay, great.
Great.
You want to go first, Scott?
Yeah, this is Scott Foster. I'm the Timber Cove rep to the Coast MAC. Thank you. The sound, by the way, the sound here is very difficult to understand everyone. So if you could speak clearly, that would be very appreciated.
Scott
I'm
Nevin?
Scott Nevin. I'm the, what's that? I'm using, do I have to, no, I don't think that's it. I think it's my phone, my computer. I'm Scott Nevin. I'm the Coastal MAC rep for Sea Ranch in Annapolis, and I joined the MAC about 8 months ago.
Thanks, everyone. Welcome to 2025. Okay, we're gonna move to if anyone here in the room that's not on the council, or we're gonna do people in the room and then people online. If you have anything to make a comment about that's not on the agenda, now's the time to do it. Keep in mind that we won't have a discussion about it, but we will do what you have to say. Anybody?
I don't know if this is the correct time or not.
This is the time. Yeah, if you could walk up to the podium so that the microphone can take you.
My name is Cynthia Halliday and I live in the Hollydale Terrace Canyon area. And I just wanted to make everybody aware that we are starting a COPE program in our area. And so I just want to make sure that we begin our partnerships with everybody in our area. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Anyone have their hand up online?
Now is the time for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. If anybody in the audience has a comment, please raise your hand. No, there are no comments this time.
Okay. County update.
And Supervisor Hopkins is joining us virtually.
Supervisor Hopkins, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear.
Great. So I wanted to start off by welcoming the new members to the Russian River MAC. Wanted to say thank you to Carrie Hernandez, our Forestville alternate, Craig Baker, Monterey Villa Grande alternate, Norma Pichardo, our Guerneville alternate, and Terry Gwiazdowski from Cazadero and Duncan's Mills, who was a founding alternate MAC member and returning, which is really exciting. And then also a thank you to Tony Goodwin for stepping from the alternate to the representative role for Cazadero, Duncan's Mills, and Patty Thayer for stepping into the representative role also from the alternate role. And then finally, really, really excited to welcome Faye Zamora. So thank you so much, Faye, our very first student representative, a Forestville resident and Annalise student representing the youth voice of the entire Lower Russian River area. So thank you so much. Really, really excited. And I also just wanted to share that I am stepping into the role of the chair of the Board of Supervisors this year, which, basically means that I run the meetings, but also get a bit of an insider perspective on the agenda. And that my goal as the chair is really to kind of focus on customer service and community engagement, which is something that, I repeatedly hear, especially when it comes to things like permitting processes, trying to focus on customer service. But when it comes to community engagement, I just want to say thank you to all of our Municipal Advisory Council members, because you are absolutely critical part of that process. And I really want to continue to elevate the importance of our municipal advisory councils and ensure that you all are absolutely the first step for departments, to come in and to hear directly from the community before moving on to decision-making processes at the Board of Supervisors. Also, a bit of exciting news, we have community public art project grants available now specifically for District 5, so specifically West County grants available through Creative Sonoma. And so the goal is to really enhance public spaces in unincorporated West County. We'll be able to fund about 10 projects for between $5,000 and $10,000 each. The application period is now open and the deadline is February 10th. So if you know of any artists in your community or any nonprofit organizations that want to do something that will create, just basically beautification of our common public spaces, that is really what we are after. Creative Sonoma is also hosting an application workshop on January 23rd, and that'll basically help assist any prospective applicants with how to complete the application process. And there is a link in yesterday's D5 newsletter that can have additional details. Also wanted to share that tomorrow we are hosting a special board meeting at 9 a.m. at Sebastopol Center for the Arts. This is kind of our priority setting and also our calendar setting process for the Board of Supervisors. And I've kind of scheduled the morning session to really try to hear from the community as much as possible. But since I'm here tonight, you're also welcome to share ideas of things that you think should be on the Board of Supervisors agenda for this year. And then finally, West County Services Center is now officially operational with the Human Services Department, connecting folks to CalFresh, workforce training, and Medi-Cal benefits on Tuesday and Thursday from 12:30 to 5 p.m. And you can also find 5th District staff there, sort of sporadically throughout the week. It's also a place where we can meet with constituents. And so that is the B of A building in Guerneville. And actually, it's now more accessible than it was a few weeks ago. The Caltrans work is sort of concluding, and you don't have to walk through as much caution tape in order to get into the building. And there's also meeting space available for public workshops. So for instance, the Child Parent Institute launched a parents and babies support group today. And if you have a community group that's interested in using the space, just let us know and reach out to District 5 at sonoma-county.org or talk to Debbie afterwards. Happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
I'm bringing the council first, does anyone have any questions for Supervisor Hopkins on the subject that she was just talking about?
I have another question.
All right.
I'm just curious, Linda, I'm not up to date on what's happening in Southern California, mostly because I don't want to watch the news. But I'm just curious what Sonoma County is doing to help the situation with the fires down there.
That is a great question. So what we have done so far is we have, Redcom has dispatched the following resources. We actually have 5 Type 1 engine companies. So those are Type 1 strike teams and 1 chief officer that is being provided by Santa Rosa Fire, Sonoma Valley Fire, Rancho Adobe Fire, Sonoma County Fire District, which serve the Lower Russian River, and Gold Ridge Fire District. We also have 5 engine companies as part of a Cal OES task force. And also 1 chief officer with that. That includes Petaluma Fire, Sonoma Valley Fire, Santa Rosa Fire, and Sonoma County Fire. We also have a Cal OES water tender team, and that is coming from Sonoma County Fire District, and that's going to meet with 4 other Cal OES units from other counties. And then we have Type 3 brush engine strike team as well. And that chief officer will be meeting up with a Mendocino and Humboldt County Type 3 strike team to complete the strike team for deployment, and that is being provided by Sonoma Valley Fire. We also have incident management team support, so single chief officer deployments from Petaluma Fire and Gold Ridge Fire. And in addition to that, we are also offering sort of basically mutual aid county to county, local government to local government. So we have Tenniswick and Permit Sonoma has been in touch with his colleague to help provide, sort of best practices in terms of rebuild and, policy, as well as the kind of initial response. Johannes from the PI team has also been in touch with his colleagues and counterparts in Southern California. We've got county council reaching out to their county council, environmental health, and animal services and Department of Emergency Management have all offered mutual aid support to their colleagues in LA. So we are doing everything that we can. The way that I think of it is it's a crappy club to be a part of, but we are part of this club and we all take care of each other. The images that we're seeing just really call to mind Coffee Park. And I also was on the phone actually earlier today with Senator McGuire. And he has also actually already been in Southern California and is heading back there again, has been instrumental in trying to get water trucks to be able to refill the water reservoirs and the water tanks down there to ensure the continuity of water supply, and also really facilitating public information and those kinds of resources as well. So.
Can I add something just so everyone's aware on that? All of the animal organizations in the state of California are on alert as well. The Humane Society of Pasadena was the first to reach out, but then it's like a lot of them are now, and animals are being transferred out of facilities in the fire zones right now to make room for more animals to come in. So they're going to be transported across the state of California. Some of them will probably end up here in Sonoma County. So if anyone is interested in fostering, now's the time to raise your hand. You'll be making space for animals to animal shelters in Southern California.
Can I ask, Chair, if you have any suggestions for organizations to reach out to raise your hand for fostering?
Well, Sonoma County Animal Services and Sonoma Humane Society are the 2 primary right now. I have not talked, because Brian's been busy, I haven't talked to him in the last couple of days to see what intake they're doing, if any. But Sonoma Humane is probably the best bet right now.
Yeah, I have it in my mind that the general plan is solidifying this year. I can't remember if that's correct. So my question is, we had this meeting here to give feedback on the general plan. I'm curious what the follow-up is, if there's opportunities for more feedback, and generally what the timeline is for the general plan this year.
That's a great question. We are continuing and really diving into the general plan. There are at least a couple of updates scheduled before the Board of Supervisors, but the main focus is going to be continuing to get out in the community. And so we can definitely let you know. I can check in with Permit Sonoma and find out when more local meetings will be happening out in West County. Because my big push is, ultimately, of course, this is something that is voted on by the Board of Supervisors, but it has to be driven in a grassroots way by the community. So the conversations need to happen out where you are, not at the chambers in Santa Rosa. So I'll see if we can get a timeline for that. that's a little bit more solidified. I know that there are a couple public checkpoints with the Board of Supervisors as well. And also one thing that I want to mention that I think also went out in the newsletter yesterday, we do have the flood hazard maps coming back to the Board of Supervisors Tuesday. I want to thank you so much to the Lower Russian River MAC for the excellent feedback on that. And it definitely is sculpting the way that that agenda item is coming forward. And so Permit Sonoma was really listening and is going to be trying to, present a suite of options, even though we have to adopt the rezoning to, sort of better address that going forward, including looking at studies, to see whether, because we don't think that the FEMA maps are actually accurate, and also looking at overlays and other opportunities to facilitate commercial rebuilding.
Anyone else on the council? Anyone in the room here?
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, stand at the podium.
This is probably directed specifically to you.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who want to help with animal rescue, but can't foster. Like we have cyclo dogs, so we can't foster.
Right.
But when Australia had their fires, I sewed about 100 Joey bags.
Yep.
Are there wish lists for
So
people that?
the best way to find that, to find that out, with their specific needs, and it will change day to day.
Right.
Go to Pasadena Humane's website, SPCA LA as well. And they will have a list of, that's your best place to find what they need on any given day.
So Pasadena.
Pasadena, SPCA LA, are good place to start.
Okay. Okay.
And thank you.
If I missed it, quick.
Yeah.
I just wanted everybody to be aware, I just got this email today that, the communications committee really wanted to have an all MAC meeting where we all got together and could share best practices, et cetera. Well, it's happening. And it is Saturday, February 22nd, at Sonoma County Fair.
Oh, yeah.
And I just got that today, but not everybody reads their email, so I thought I'd make it in the record.
Yeah. Great. Anyone?
Does that include alternate?
Yes.
Anyone online have any questions for Director Hopkins? Comment?
If there's anybody online that would like to ask a question or make a comment on Supervisor Hopkins' update, now is the time to raise your hand. I see none.
Okay, great. We are gonna move to number 9, which is the Brown Act.
Just give me a moment while. Okay, can you tell me if it's sharing properly online?
Your notes are up.
Sorry, okay, I will start sharing.
There we go.
It's working now? Excellent. Okay, so the Brown Act. What I'm gonna ask is that if any council members, either online or in the room, have questions as we go on the slides, just stop me and we can answer questions as we go. We can also do questions at the end. And Che, if you could keep an eye out on hands raised, because I'm not gonna be able to see that. And so if you're online and you have a question about something that's going on, just raise your hand and we can take questions in real time. And really, what the Brown Act is regulations that allow for transparency in government, and so that the public can be engaged in government happenings.
oftentimes, because there's a lot of rules around it, people can become frustrated because they might come here to with the impression that they can come and talk to the map and the map can talk about it right now and take action on something. When in reality, it needs to go on our agenda first so that other people in the public know that it's going to be talked about at the meeting. So that's the main reason for making sure that during the course of the meeting, we're not talking about things that are not on the agenda.
So I'm not really me.
Yeah. Well, and it's really for the protection of the public, but it sometimes seems frustrating. So that's something that I really think that this body can help people to understand, and then they can, you know, take it to larger bodies. And you know, if we learn about it here, and then people want to engage, they can learn where those levers are to actually help provide input to government instead of at the times where it's not accepted, basically. So we'll run through the rules here. There are a few things that you as council members need to be very aware of, and then there's a bunch of things in here that really you just need to know that they exist, and I need to make sure that they happen. So I'll separate those out for you, and then you will all get copies of this and links so that if you want to go and drill down and study more, you can read about these things. But never hesitate to reach out and ask me if you're not sure about something. And then if I'm not sure about something, I can go to county council and get clarity, because sometimes it's not perfectly clear. But the main thing is that we're trying to be as transparent and open as possible so that the public can be engaged in the decisions of government. So this is just sort of like a vocabulary they talk about in the next slide. When we talk about committees, we talk about ad hocs being formed by a legislative body. So what is a legislative body? The Board of Supervisors is a legislative body, but then also any organization that they create by action. So because the Board of Supervisors created the map is a legislative body, so it's governed by the Brown Act. When the map creates a standing committee or an ad hoc, well, when the map creates a standing committee, it's a legislative body, and there's rules about the map creating an ad hoc. So we'll go in and we'll talk about committees and ad hocs next. So oftentimes, you know, we have these meetings once a month. And oftentimes there are topics that need a little bit more time to research and delve down. So we'll form an ad hoc committee. And an ad hoc committee is temporary. It's a limited purpose. It's only for one particular item. For example, updating the community outreach and engagement plan. Last year, we formed a committee. The committee met regularly, made updates to it, brought it back to the MAC, the full MAC. Full MAC gave some comments. The committee went back, worked on a little bit more, brought it forward, and then the full MAC approved it and submitted it to Supervisor Hopkins to approve. And then that is our current community engagement and outreach plan. So that was, and then the committee was dissolved after that happened. It's made up of less than a quorum because we have 9 members on the MAC, on the river map. We have 9 members, and I think there are 7 right now on the coast map. So as long as it's less than a quorum, which means less than half of the members can be on it. So for the river map, we can have an ad hoc of 4 members and the coast map 3 members. And an ad hoc committee is not subject to the Brown Act because it's less than a quorum and it's not making any decisions. It's just doing research and work. And then it comes back to the Brown Act body. The other type of committee is a standing committee. And for the past couple of years, the River Map has had a standing committee for land use. And what made it a standing committee is that it had an ongoing term. It wasn't something that, it had different topics that came through, and it had a standing time. Every other month, there was a date for the land use committee.
Well, do you mind, I mean, the land use committee, so its purpose was land use.
And
it wasn't Guerneville land use or Rio Tinto land use or whatever, which we can decide if we want to do that instead.
right, and so that is the topic. Right after that, we'll be talking about ad hocs. And so it was a continuing subject matter jurisdiction of all land use for the whole river map. So, yes.
That's a good question. You had stated earlier that it was the supervisors that established the maps.
Yeah.
Is that an optional discretional establishment of the maps, or is that by state law?
No, it's not required.
It's not required.
No.
And so that varies from county to county in California, is that correct?
It is, and I don't know if Supervisor Hopkins is still online, wants to chime in, because it was something that she did in her first term. Shay, is she still online? I don't think she was gonna be able to stay the whole time. Okay, I wish I could give you, well, Shay was there at the beginning.
We almost did. I think we mimicked Mendocino or somewhere else.
There was
So it's optional by the board of supervisors per county, if they establish a map or not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was something she wanted to see happen and work done.
and sometimes they're not called maps, sometimes they're called something else, but it's the same general principle.
Okay,
The idea
thank you.
is to give rural areas a place. That's what you said.
Right, okay, I wasn't clear on that, thank you.
Okay, welcome. So that's the difference between a standing committee and an ad hoc committee. And then, so what is a meeting? It's a bunch of people getting together and talking about things. But when it comes to the Brown Act, a meeting is when you have more than a quorum of people talking about a subject that is in the jurisdiction of the body. And so that's where as MAC representatives and alternates, you do have to be careful that you don't have conversations. You don't want to have you can't have a meeting that isn't agendized. And if you type the word agendized, it'll get underlined in red, but it does exist. I use that word all the time. But you can't just decide to talk to a group of other MAC members about something that you think that the county should do if it's within the jurisdiction. You would come to staff or come to the chair and say, I'd like to bring this as a topic to the full MAC. You can talk about it with your neighbors and in your community, and you're absolutely encouraged to do that. To get feedback and learn about what people want, but not amongst one another. And when it comes to the point where you think that a conversation with other people on the map would be helpful, that's when you make it an agenda item.
But to be clear, if it's not a majority, like those three or four people, depending on which map you're on, you can have a conversation.
You could.
But
So it's governed by whether it's a quorum or not.
correct.
But in the absence of a quorum, there can be conversations.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, in the absence of a quorum, but we're gonna talk about serial meetings.
Yes. That's where it comes from.
So if, say, member A, B, C, and D have a conversation, and maybe member A doesn't realize that D had even been in on the conversation, and then talks to somebody else. Now you've become it's been more than a quorum. So I have to be real careful about what you are, if you're going to be having these conversations. I don't think that the need for that really comes up. I think that because we're pretty spread out, you might have a conversation with your alternate or, you know, the people in your community. But just be aware, and maybe if you're gonna talk about a particular issue, before talking about it, say, hey, have you had conversations with anybody else about this? And then you'll know. And so the one I just described they call it a daisy chain, where A, B, C, D, and then A tells B, B tells C, C tells D, and then D tells E, right? So then all of a sudden you've gotten into having more than a quorum without necessarily realizing it. Because it's not that they all have to be talking with each other, it's just that that topic came up with more than a quorum. So it's not necessarily, that's what the serial meeting is. So you don't know if that's happening or not. The other kind is hub and spoke. So A talks to B, and then A talks to C, and then A talks to D, and then A talks to E. That's, A has now talked to too many people, and it's become a serial meeting. One way to help mitigate that is all representatives can always speak with staff. I'm not part of the Brown Act forum. So if there's something that you know, you think should come to the MAC as an agenda item, or you know, you'd like some more information about it, or you want to know if there's a way to have an ad hoc, you can always come to me. And I want to just also mention that because our student member is not a voting member and hasn't been officially appointed, it's not an appointed position like the rest of you, Brown Act does not apply to you, so you can talk to everybody. You can all talk to me whenever you want.
So are you saying that we can use Faye to talk?
Like, so you can tell them, they could say, oh, well, Pip said this, and
Right.
Tony said this, and I couldn't do that either. I can listen and I can share facts and information, but I can't share what everybody's opinions are.
But Debbie, on this kind of arrangement, you can, is it true that you can talk to all the members of your MAC, but just not about the same topic?
You can talk about like what you did over vacation.
No, issues. Like
About issues.
You talk to, say, you know, that I think what you're saying is that in this architecture where you're hub and spoke and you're talking about serial, you cannot talk about the same thing with the group of people, but
Right.
you can talk about other issues with individuals,
Yes,
right?
yes,
It's
as long
not-
as the total number of people talking about that topic remains less than a quorum.
Right, right.
Correct.
So you can be involved with some people on some issues and other people on other issues. So it's not supposed to squelch interaction. You're just not supposed to be doing something that could be potentially perceived as a meeting, right? And becoming opaque to the public.
Yes, and really what is very much encouraged by the MAC is that each representative and alternate has these conversations with their communities and then brings that back together at meetings to say, this is what I'm hearing. That would be the biggest help. Rather, because there's so many people out there in the community, and if you're having, you can have conversations with less than a quorum in your group, but really the focus through community engagement should be just reaching out and what's word on the street? What are my neighbors?
And how exactly is the agenda going to be structured around those conversations? How do you put forward those agenda items?
So it depends on the item. You can, if you're hearing something when you go to a meeting and that council member comment for items not on the agenda, that would be a great time to say, I have been hearing from my community this, and the other. And then the chair can suggest bringing that as a agenda topic, if it's something that could be helped by the full MAC addressing it. Another alternative, and Pip and I were just talking about this, couple of months ago, there was a question about recycling. And we thought maybe we'll bring that as a agenda item. Well, as staff, I reached out to county staff to learn about the item a little bit and got the information, brought it back the following month as a staff update, and that answered the question, and then there was not a need to have a meeting about it. That answered the concerns, it gave the community, it gave the MAC representatives information. And then so if you hear things that you think, people are asking questions, they don't understand something about the county, bring that to the MAC. It might be solved by having a meeting. It might be solved by staff doing some research and just sharing it back to you. It depends.
I mean, a good, it's not just the chair you can bring that to, you can bring it to the different staff too.
Yeah, staff can do the research, staff can find out answers for you. I mean, the MAC members, the chair, has other things going on during the day, but if you have questions, you bring it to staff, and you can research it for you, and then determine if it's something that makes sense to be an agenda item.
For example, man, was not just an example, so some time ago, there was a meeting with them to find out about state parks on the coast.
Yes.
And maintaining certain things, repairing certain things, or parking situations. Some members of the MAC attended, others were not invited. There was never a readout on what actually happened at that interaction meeting and what the next steps there may be. And so the general, I'm unable to know what's going on. I'm unable to inform public that I interact with about what the outcome is.
So a couple of ways for that. So sometimes the meeting minutes are very detailed, not always. Meeting minutes really only need to outline actions that happen technically, but we do often try to include more information in the meeting minutes so that if somebody wasn't there, they can peruse through it and see what happened. But then when that's not available, the video recordings are always up on YouTube. The District 5 has a YouTube channel, so even if people can't be at the meeting, they can go to the YouTube.
There was some other meeting, not a MAC meeting, but some other meeting occurred where we met with the state representative of parks.
Oh,
and they would
I see.
look at things and then come back to us presumably and let us know what the outcome would be.
I would just email the staff. So for the Coast map, I would throw Chase. And then, he could just research that or, bring it to the team if it's something that we need to get information. So don't even feel like you don't have an answer. Yeah.
Somebody's going to address it, but then there's no follow-up and what the outcome was of that. And
Yeah.
the information doesn't filter to everybody on.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to repeat that.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. And I think that's not really a Brown Act thing, so I wanna move on, but that's good feedback, and I wanna let all of you know that if there's something that is tickling your mind and you're wondering, always reach out. Never say, I'm sorry to bother you. That's what we do. It's what we do. So reach out, ask the question. It might take us a little bit of time to put it together, but we'll get back to you with answers. So
but
you really are.
You don't insist that we go through our chair or vice chair to get the response to an outcome because.
No, I don't think so. No, because they're volunteers.
Right, we're all volunteers.
Yeah, so come to staff, you have a question, if there's something that came up in a MAC meeting. And yeah, definitely.
And I think that's really your safest way to avoid any market issues.
Thank you.
Yeah, and always feel free to copy the chair, just if you want to keep them in the loop about, how that you're having these questions. But then they'll see it was sent to staff, it's staff's responsibility to follow up, but then the chair would get copied on the response. So that could probably be a good way to do it. Because then they're aware of what's going on. So here we're getting into, social media, what my battery is getting.
Debbie, I have a quick question.
Yes,
It just has to do with alternates and quorum.
yes.
And so it's just the numbers, so I'm just, doing the splits of the number. I don't want to get overly detailed, but can you tell me how alternates would affect the quorum?
Yes, so, alternates count just like a regular member in the forum. They don't, oh, maybe. For how many make a quorum, it's based on the number of representatives.
So that's the difference.
Yeah, so there's 9 River Map representatives. But any 4 of alternates or representatives make a quorum, or 5.
But you could ultimately have both the alternate and the primary of each of those 4 different communities, part of that forum, so that would make 8. Because you can only count 1, right, from each.
At a meeting, but like if we're talking about an ad hoc, for example, you could have, both of, like Forestville has 2 representatives and an alternate. So all 3 of them could be on an ad hoc.
I was just kind of digging, because I think it just brought up a good question, like the alternate, so that doubles the numbers if I were to, consult with Terry about the
That
thing.
counts in your number when you're, if you consult with Terry and then say, there's an issue
Yeah,
that.
her and I we can't be in the same chair or.
Yeah, but that doesn't, you could both be on an ad hoc together. You could both be at a regular meeting, but Brown Act applies to you both.
So then is it 4 or is it
Yeah,
8?
it's 4.
Well, then, so if you have 2 alternates and. So me and Terry and then, Carrie and her, primary. That's 4.
Yeah, well, and that was.
That's okay, once it gets defined.
It's one.
But if it was me and Ty and you,
Right.
no good.
Yeah, you can't do that.
None of this makes any sense.
In government legislation, of course, it doesn't make sense.
Like. It can't seem magic. It really can, the spirit of it is that we don't have meetings in different places when the public can't come. So we put stuff on an agenda, that's when we can all kind of discuss it, and that's when we can have discussions back and forth to a large degree. If it's not on an agenda.
Right, but we're 1.
Then, pardon?
But we're 1. We're not 2.
1 what?
We're
You
1
don't
seat.
count for one, you're 1 seat.
1 seat.
That's
How
not
many
how.
is 2?
The people, all the reps and the alternates are included in the legislative body to some degree, right?
Yeah.
So any of those people, there can't be more than 4 people having any kind of conversation. My rule of thumb is we on the River Mac can have 4. Don't even go there. Cause you have chances of spoken and wheel and hubs and lanterns and all sorts of stuff, with the daisy chain. So 2 or 3, you're probably pretty safe. Once you get to that 4 mark, be careful.
And Tony, maybe this helps. So you're saying, in like this meeting, you and your alternate Terry couldn't both be participating in this meeting, a regular monthly meeting. But if there were an ad hoc committee, you could both join it. So it's just, she's your alternate for the regular monthly meetings. But there's other types of meetings that come up where you could potentially both be there. So it's not just 1 seat. She isn't Tony when Tony's not there.
Right.
She could be her own, she could join a committee. And so, and that's particularly, you need to be careful with the areas that have 2 reps.
Right.
Because the areas of Guerneville and Forestville, and then you also have Pocket Canyon, South Guerneville. So say you have a representative and an alternate, and then you have from Guerneville, South Guerneville, and then you have,
There's 6 of them.
five, there would be five, like you would have two
Yeah.
representatives from Guerneville and an alternate. So if you wanted to have some sort of ad hoc that was Guerneville focused, you couldn't even have all of the Guerneville delegates there. You would have, one would have to not be a part of it.
That makes sense. You're talking ad hoc. right?
Yeah, yeah.
But any, or any
anything.
discussion.
Well, because you guys already said that it takes 4 for this group to be a quorum.
No,
So
but
it
takes
five.
five.
Okay, so 5. Right,
Yeah.
It's
there's 18.
No.
No.
This is my point.
But 9 don't count.
9 don't count. So you guys are, you're.
In counting the forum, they don't count. In terms of value, they do count.
like
Are all, very
any 9 of the 18, right? It can be any combination of those, but there's only 9 that are.
Now let's do the math. And we put I'm kidding.
Let's talk about social media. So the main thing that you all have to remember with the social media is, not to talk with each other on social media, and that includes liking or sharing each other's communications. So you can post things about MAC meetings and you can put things out there, but if you see that Pip posted something, don't like it, just ignore it. And your responsibility is to communicate with the people in your neighborhood. And same thing, like if your alternate or the other people in your area are posting things, you can notice it, it's okay for you to see it, don't engage. And then you're not at all falling into any Brown Act violations. And really, that's just showing that you understand the spirit of it. Honestly, like if you like somebody post about something, it isn't a like a huge violation, but it demonstrates that you're part of this body that doesn't necessarily understand and adhere to it, possibly in other areas. So then it draws speculation about how the body operates. So the rule here, and you guys will have this, and there aren't a lot of things in these slides for you all to memorize and know for sure. It's the daisy chain and hub and spoke meetings, and then this is another one that's really important. Just when you see each other on social media, you know, obviously if they post a picture of their dog, that's fine, you know, if they went on vacation. But if it's something about Mac business, just ignore it. Even if it's something that you're excited about with Mac. And so, yeah, and a lot of you do use social media to answer questions, and that's fine. But you just don't want to get involved if there's other MAP members already involved in that thread. So that's all you need to keep track of. You shouldn't you shouldn't construe this as, you know, you can't engage in separate conversations or communications on an internet-based social media platform to answer questions or provide information to the public, to solicit information about a matter that's within the subject matter jurisdiction of the map, but don't use it to discuss your opinions on anything that is within the area of jurisdiction for the map. I think that's. And then this slide here isn't about Brown Act, but First Amendment. And so we get a lot of questions about social media. The county council included this slide. I think it's important to understand you do have a First Amendment right to, have a personal Facebook page or a personal social media page. It's okay to share information out. The best practice is to create a separate page for the legislative body's purposes. But that for what the map does, it's not as useful, because the reason you all are valuable to the map is for the community connections that you already have. And so to create a separate one and to ask people to follow you on that is probably, you know, defeating the purpose. But what you can do is add in the info section, the bio section at the top of your social media. This is a personal page, and the views expressed are strictly my own. And if you do that, and you don't act as if you're speaking on behalf of the MAC, you can have opinions. You all have a First Amendment right to have opinions about things. So of course you're gonna avoid what was on the last slide and talking with each other about things. But then also, you know, you can share information. And if you come across something that you wonder, is this okay? Check with me. But as long as you are not saying that there's a new not legislation, but case law called Lindke versus Freed, just this past year. And it says, the official, in order for it to be considered, speaking on behalf of the government authority, the official must have actual authority to speak on the government's behalf regarding the specific matter. And then the official must also appear to be exercising that authority when engaging in the social media activity in question. What I see most MAC members do is just share information about meetings, ask for feedback. That's not going to be an issue. So if you come across something where you wonder, it feels like it might be an issue, check with me, but I don't want you to be afraid to engage with your communities. Questions about that?
Well, I think it's important to point out, if even on your personal page, you post something about the MAC and someone makes comments that you don't like, there are some rules around you deleting that.
Yes.
So if you run into that situation and you feel like you should delete it, just call these guys and they can advise how to.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. That's important, because you don't want to, because you are all appointed officials now, and not you. You can do whatever you want. But the rest of you are, and so there are rules about, and that again isn't Brown Act, but there is a at the bottom of this slide here, and so you all are gonna get this, there is a county social media policy, so you can look at that, and that can give you some guidance. But if somebody comes on your page and starts to well, also if it's your personal page and they don't know you, then they wouldn't necessarily be on there. But if you post it publicly,
Right.
Yeah.
So it's that trolls. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that trolls do exist, and so reach out to us if you have questions about that, and we can walk you through it on a case-by-case basis.
But I remember we said last year about not being able to delete posts on the Mac. You have Facebook page?
Yes, and there are certain things that we can't, like if they're selling things and things like that, but if they're criticizing the county, no, because it's a public government page. And other members of the public get frustrated when they see that. They want it, people say, couldn't we just take this down? Well, no, we can't. It's a government page. And so, if they're gonna criticize, there's certain things, profanity, there are certain things, but we would be very careful about it and we would check to make sure that we're following the policy very closely. And sometimes things end up having to stay that are distasteful, but just because we are a public entity. So I think I mentioned the information here. Things that are not a serial meeting would be interacting with staff. But on the other hand too, staff shouldn't be like polling you all and then, sharing that information from other members. But again, don't hesitate ever reaching out to staff because that wouldn't ever be any violation. And it's our objective and joy to assist with questions. So just do reach out to us. Also, things that wouldn't be considered a meeting or a Brown Act violation would be attendance at a social or ceremonial event where no business of the MAC is discussed. So, if you all, go, I can't think of an event off the top of my head, but if you go to some, what? If you go to Pie in the Park, exactly, and there's other MAC members there, that's fun. You just don't want to group up together because that just doesn't look right. And you certainly don't want to talk about MAC business, but you can talk about anything else.
Hi.
Good topic.
Yes. Community forums and meetings of other government bodies, so you could go to a Board of Supervisors meeting. And that would not be considered, you don't have to be careful of a forum for that.
For the governance session.
But that was a MAC
That
event,
was a MAC
that was the problem,
That
so
was
the
true.
governance study, you could go to it, but we asked everybody not to speak when we realized that there was a quorum in the room. Because that was a MAC function. But if you went, say there was something that you wanted to go and do public comment at the Board of Supervisors event, a Board of Supervisors meeting, you wouldn't have to look around the room and say, oh, there's, because it's a different legislative body, so you can do that. Or like a public conference, like for example, the all MAC meeting, you all can go to that, we won't be talking about individual MAC business, we'll be talking about best practices, so there will be more than forum. And I know they were looking into making sure, that didn't have to be an agendized meeting, and I think that they determined it then. So this is something that I need to make sure happen, but it's good for you all to just understand. Most of you might already be aware that a Brown Act meeting, the regular meeting, the agenda must be posted 72 hours in advance of the meeting. That's the bare minimum. For your sake, I usually try to get agendas posted a week in advance so that you have over the weekend to look at them and more time. But the rule is that the agenda must be posted for all Brown Act bodies a minimum of 72 hours in advance of 3 days. A special meeting can have a 24-hour notice. But the regular meeting is 72. And then when material is distributed to members within that 72-hour period before the meeting, the material also has to be made available to the public at the same time that it's distributed to the members. So if I publish the agenda Thursday, and then on Tuesday, I get some new materials, I can't just forward it to you all without also posting it on the agenda. And one thing I'll add, because you'll all hear about this from time to time, there's a step between getting a document and posting it on the agenda or anywhere on the county website called remediation. And what that is the tech department makes it accessible for screen readers to read it for ADA. So anything that the county publishes on the website must be remediated first. So sometimes when materials come to you, I want you just to understand that there's rules about it. And I'm trying to get things to you as fast as possible, but sometimes they have to be remediated before I can hear them.
Does remediation include translation?
No, translation is different, and I'll translate that, and then, Lupe will, I'll translate it with technology, and then Lupe will proofread it. And
When does it get posted?
and it would also have to be remediated. Yeah, because it's a document, right? So all of those would, but items can go to less than a quorum also, and then if it's distributed to the whole group, but if it's to less than a quorum. So if there was one document that needed to be translated, I could get that out. That wouldn't be an issue, and then, get it remediated after the fact. So yeah, this is just rules about agendas. There's a brief description about the item, and then they must be publicly accessible. They're posted online. All of the meetings for the year already have links for both the Coast Map and the River Map. So if you go to the link for, say, May, it's gonna be blank, and it'll say the materials will be here, no later than 72 hours before the meeting. But you can share the link. You can go to the link, you can direct people to the link. Oh, if you know that there's gonna be a certain topic coming up next month and the agenda hasn't been published, but you know somebody who's interested in it, you can send them the link and say, this is where that information is gonna be when it's available. And those are there for all of 2025 already. So this is about, during meetings, when items come up that are not on the agenda. And again, this is something that is to protect the public. If somebody comes for public comment for items not on the agenda, I think sometimes people think they're coming here and, not understanding the Brown Act. They don't understand where I have a concern. These are the people that are representing me. I'm coming to talk to them. And then they say, thank you, goodbye. So I think just really, making it clear and educating not only our members, but our community, that it protects the community, that items can't just come up for discussion without already being on the agenda, because one person might come to the meeting. If Brown Act didn't exist and people could come to a meeting, well, maybe there's 6 other people at home that would have wanted to hear that conversation and take part in it. That's not fair. So it has to go on the agenda if there's going to be a legislative body conversation about it. But multiple people can come up and give information and you all can take it in. And then one thing you can talk about is, would we want to put this on an agenda? That's allowed. You can bring that up and you can have a discussion about putting it on the agenda, but not about the item itself. And that's hard. Sometimes we slip into that a little bit, and either the chair or staff will, bring it back, because
Like your question that was not directed to,
I'm guilty.
But it's hard.
It's that's why we just do these trainings every year to learn about it. And, that wasn't necessarily something that, the MAC has jurisdiction over, so it was like a curiosity question.
Yes.
So, you use your judgment, and, but it's just good for everybody to be aware of that. And, especially if something comes up and you feel like you want to talk about an issue, to just remember that you can't. And, And as you speak with people in the community to help them understand how these meetings work so that they feel more heard. And that it's not, there's no, you know, it's not a reason of not wanting to discuss an item. It's just that we have to follow the rules and put the item on the agenda so that the public is aware. And, yeah, members can ask for a report back, or information on a future agenda. And so every regular meeting has an item on it, which allows members of the public to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, as long as it's within the subject area of the body. And so we do that. But one interesting thing, if we were to have a special meeting, normally you have a special meeting because something came up. And I think
We've had a couple.
yeah, we've had a couple. I think the land, not like the general plan. There was a timing issue, but it goes after a regular meeting, and it's just the timing we need to do. So that was the only item on the agenda, and so we didn't have public comment on items not on the agenda. That's not an agenda item at a special meeting. Every regular meeting does have that. So we do that once a month, but if we were to have a special meeting, then you don't necessarily have that. And another sort of administrative thing that staff is aware of, if there's public comment and there's a time limit for public comment and there's a member of the public who is using an interpreter, you double the time allotment for them. So if it's a 2-minute time allotment for public comment, then it's a 4-minute time for if people are using the interpreter so that everybody gets the same amount of time to be heard. So if a meeting is, if there's like disorderly conduct during a meeting, the chair can call a recess and then reconvene after order has been restored. As long as I've been here, that has never happened. I don't know if you remember that that's ever happened at an app meeting.
Maybe one.
Maybe one.
So certainly been.
Oh, yeah. So we did have to, so that's just something to be aware of. And there are rules and guidelines for that the Board of Supervisors have on the website. So, that's something that probably if you're a chair or vice chair that you should become familiar with in order to handle that if it comes up. So now on to teleconference rules, and we're actually an example of that tonight. There are several different options for teleconference. And right, so COVID brought us some new rules. There's the traditional Brown Act always allowed remote teleconferencing, and that's actually how our colleagues up at the Sea Ranch are attending with the original traditional Brown Act requirements. And then for one more year until January 1st, 2026. Assembly Bill 2449 allowed folks to attend remotely, and that is how Craig is attending today. So let's just go through what those are. And again, you're gonna get copies of this, and you can just sort of hear it, but each time we utilize this, I go back and make sure that we're following it exactly. So this isn't something that you need to memorize, but just sort of be aware of. So when we're using the traditional Brown Act, there has to be a quorum of the group participating from locations within the jurisdictional boundaries of, it says here county, but the MAC, the MAC area. We have a quorum for the coast MAC because, do we?
Yep, there's 4 of us.
Oh, yeah, he just stood up, yeah. Because there's 2 in up in the Sea Ranch and 2 here. And when you use that, you have to know far enough in advance so that the agenda has that location posted. And the location has to be accessible, and open. So you can't, unless you want to post it on your front door and do it in your living room, and your living room is ADA accessible, and allow any member of the public to come in. You could do that, but generally, when we're using the traditional Brown Act teleconference requirements, we are using a public facility where a MAC meeting would normally take place. We publish the address and host the meeting with 2 locations.
Does it have to be a place where the MAC would have been? Going to be a community, meeting place of some kind?
It needs to be accessible to the public.
All public.
Yes,
Are you sure about that?
that's what it says. Yeah, could be a coffee shop. Yeah, just
It
people.
doesn't have to be a government building.
No, I'm saying a clubhouse, some kind of,
Yeah.
Your HIA has an area set aside.
Yes, right. But if it's not ADA, if there's stairs leading up to it.
No, I get that
Yeah,
part, but
yeah.
it's someplace that the MAC would have necessarily met before.
Correct. Yes, I misunderstood your question. And all votes must be by roll call when there's remote attendees. So, and that's just so that it can all be heard. So then we have these special rules post-COVID for AB 2449. And under that, a quorum of members must participate in person from one physical location. So if somebody were, and I'll go into what the circumstances are to attend by way of the AB 2449 regulations. But if you're going to use one of these reasons, you would reach out to me as soon as you know, because sometimes it needs to be on the agenda. We were able to modify the agenda tonight, so that's okay. We can do that. But we would like to put it on the agenda if we know ahead of time. In this case, we didn't. And we didn't know that we were going to even have an alternate. So this worked out fine doing it this way, because you can't change the agenda and agenda approval. But multiple people can't necessarily do that if it's going to make it so that you don't have a quorum in one place. So it's not always available, even if you meet circumstances, because we would still need a quorum in order for the meeting to take place. So let me just quickly, and you'll have copy of this, but there's 2 different types of remote attendance. There's the just cause and the emergency circumstances. The emergency circumstances one is the one where the MAC votes on it. The just cause, the member just has to notify that they have this circumstance. I don't know why they did it that way, but they did. So if it's just cause, it means that you have a child care or caregiving need of a child, parent, grandparent, grandchild, sibling, spouse, domestic partner, that requires the member to participate remotely. They have a contagious illness that prevents the member from attending in person. There's a need related to a physical or mental disability not otherwise accommodated for. Or, and I can't even imagine the time that this would happen, they're traveling on official business of the MAC. Then they can also attend by just cause. And you can do 2 per year of these. Yes.
Can I ask, on the preceding slide, it said that, and maybe I misinterpreted teleconference, it has to be within the boundaries of the jurisdiction. Does this apply?
No,
Okay.
that's the within the boundaries of the jurisdiction are for the
actual sites of
the traditional Brown Act, and that was always even before COVID.
Okay.
That was what the rules were. This AB 2449, which is temporary and it sunsets at the end of this year, and then if the legislature doesn't come up with something else, there'll be no more remote attendance. You don't have to be within the boundaries of
under the just cause.
or the emergency.
Or the.
Yes.
Forum.
A quorum of MAC members
Okay.
has to be in a
Fine.
single
I get it.
location.
It's fine.
Yeah, but we could have had this meeting, well, are having this meeting, you don't have a quorum of COSMAC members in a single location. So, but we weren't using the AB 2449 for that. It's neat that we have both of these examples, real life examples in this very meeting. Because the Sea Ranch group is using the traditional. And there isn't a quorum all in one place, but the River Map is using the AB 2449, and we have a quorum all in one place with one member not present. And technically could be outside of the boundaries if required, if they, yeah. So the just cause is the caregiving need or sudden contagious illness, etc. Emergency circumstances, the difference here, the just cause, the member just notifies. In this one, the member requests that they can participate remotely, and then the body takes action. So the qualifying reason for emergency circumstances is a physical or family medical emergency that prevents a member from attending in person. You don't have to disclose any medical diagnosis or disability or any personal medical information. And then the member makes a separate request for each meeting they seek to participate. So basically, if you come across a time where you think you may need to do that, just reach out to me and I'll identify whether it fits one of these 3 different means of teleconferencing. Yes.
Can you close the door?
Sure.
I know, I tried to close it, and I couldn't get it.
Okay, AJ is not getting chilly. Sorry about that. Jay, what's the bottle? It's behind it. And then just lift the little metal thing.
Yeah, I mean, we tried it.
And then I don't know if we need to go into all of these details. These are the details that I need to know, but you all don't need to know these things, and you can read about it, and those are just all. And we did an example of the disclosure of the within the room with you and so forth. Thanks, guys. And then this slide just says that, hybrid meetings, the fact that we have the OWL and members of the public are able to participate as long as staff or the body is able to do this. You can continue to have public participation remotely, and so we choose to do that.
In the case of those of the coastal MAC that are up in Sea Ranch, is there a member of District 5 up there as well?
Tonight, no.
So
No.
they're on their own. Okay.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're up to?
The owl thing you just brought up, is that part of the AB 2449 or is it gonna be permanent?
No, that that is something that just District 5 and Supervisor Hopkins really wants to be able to, welcome as many people from the community as possible, and not everybody has the time or the, availability to come in person to a meeting. And so to be able to watch live and, do public comment, ask questions, that is a big priority for, community and public engagement. And then the other, nice side effect of that is that we have a recording, so that then people can, if they weren't able to make the meeting, they can always go back and watch the recording too. So there's a lot of great reasons for having.
I seem to recall that the communications committee actually made a request to continue having hybrid meetings.
Yeah.
In order for the public to be able to.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I know that, our community members, they're working and their families and
Yeah.
school and. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they can
hard for them
multitask, they can be cleaning up after dinner, listening to the meeting, if they have kids they need to get to bed. I mean, we really appreciate the technology that's available to bring the community in. How are we on time? I think we have, okay, so remote participate, I think there's only 2 slides left. It says the social media, really anything that we post in a private group or on Nextdoor should also be available in a public format. Really, I think everything is, you're mostly sharing things forward that we've already put in public, but just be aware of that. You don't want to put things only on Nextdoor, because you have to have a membership to, you have to get approved to join Nextdoor, and, private Facebook groups. But as long as it's also on a public group, you're good. And, this is just, what happens if, there's a Brown Act violation. There could be civil actions, there could be criminal penalties. Generally, there is a, you just have to redo any action that took place, but, you just want to be aware that the state takes this seriously, and, I think you're all experts now. And then the last slide is just a list of links and resources. Those will be listed in the minutes, and, if you have any questions anytime, just reach out. Always happy to talk about the.
I have one question for you.
Yes.
And that is, as an alternate, is an alternate allowed to comment or ask questions if they're not sitting in?
So technically, no, you can watch the meeting.
Watch, that's it.
Yeah, and, but like in the circumstance, say you're on an ad hoc committee and you're the designated person to give a report out from that, but you're not attending as an alternate, then you can speak during that section, and you would just, you could either do it remotely or in person. You would just acknowledge that you're an alternate, you're not attending for that, and you have information to share out from your ad hoc. So there are some circumstances where that can happen, but in general, if you are an alternate, you can certainly attend, but you can't necessarily weigh in as a member of the public.
Okay, so you can't comment or ask a question or clarify.
Right.
So can you make a comment in the public comments?
Yeah, you just said not as a public.
In public comment, I think you could, but I think you're talking about there's an agenda.
That actually happening.
Well, I would come, and I would sit over here, and I would always say something during public comment.
That's okay. I'm gonna find out. I'll find out for sure.
I know we have information.
Yes.
How much an alternate can participate, if they're not sitting in.
Yes. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Debbie.
All right, so the rest of
Madam Chair, if I may, as the rest of the agenda is River Mac business.
Yeah.
Scott has, the Postmac and the adjourn. Debbie, do we have to do, formal motion of all that, if it's a group?
No, I don't think, well,
We can do it just, okay.
okay,
Okay.
sure,
Can I come back and make a motion to adjourn?
for the postman.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all for that out here. We've got, I think the rest of the agenda items are really not germane. So, I'd like to adjourn the Coast Mac portion of this show, if that's okay with you folks.
And Scott Foster.
No, John Laughlin.
John Laughlin.
And then we gotta do roll
Seconded.
call on that vote, because we have.
Yes. Yes, so Ginny?
Yes.
It's a roll call vote for,
Oh, yeah.
yes. And John? And Scott Foster?
I vote in favor.
And, oh, and Scott Nevin.
Yes.
Okay. Post-MAC meeting is adjourned at 7:12.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, there you go. All right, so let's just keep rolling here.
Yes.
Okay. So we're on the next, section, which is selection of the River Mac chair and vice chair for 2025. Anyone have a nomination or want a discussion about it?
I nominate Devin. Again. You're the only one who keeps things rolling, so I say let's stick with that.
John is right.
Yeah.
Would have nominated Ty, but he's not here.
I did agree to. and
Okay.
we talked to
Okay, we'll talk to her.
You know, I'm gonna be a good choice.
Joe's like,
Okay. So roll call vote, well,
We have,
now, yeah,
Can we hear from him whether he wants to do it?
so. I'm willing to do it and I don't mind doing it. I'm willing to do it, but this has to be the last year I do it.
aren't
I-
you on it this year?
I'm gone after this year,
So-
unless no one runs, so anyway, I don't. So I am willing, I would like to do it, but I am also conscious of the fact that I've been doing this for a while, and it would be nice to have someone else step in and do this. It's a great learning experience, other than just what happens here as well. But anyway. So yes, I'm able to talk.
I'd be willing to be the vice if,
Well, let's go through the the chair first.
Sure.
So we have a first, we have a
in
second.
a second, so roll call.
Roll call on the case. Roll call on that.
So, Pam,
Sure.
Tony,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Betsy. Yes.
And Vicky. Who you did that? I
Well, Craig is next in line.
Oh,
Craig,
sorry.
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
and Lonnie,
Yeah.
and Carrie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that motion carries.
Can I ask a point of order real quick?
Yes.
Usually don't you do a first and a second and then open up to discussion before going to a vote?
Well, we kind of did, but if there wants to be more discussion, that's fine too.
Okay.
But do you have to include public?
We should have asked for.
Yeah. Do we have any public comment? Discussion?
Maybe we're the best.
What? Yes. No? Okay.
Okay.
We'll move to vice chair. So nominations for vice chair,
Like nominate Vicky.
I second that.
Somebody thinks that's funny.
I think you would be good doing this too.
I know, but I want to do vice.
Yeah, I get it. That's good.
And again, Vicky, how do you feel about,
I want to do vice.
you do? Great.
Any other?
Any
Vice
other,
chair.
anyone else want to, any other discussion points on this? Before we go to public, anyone in public have any comments?
No, I'm good. Tony third. Oh, I thirded it, yeah.
Okay, can we get the roll call on that?
Okay,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Betsy. Yes. Craig,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yeah.
Lonnie,
Yes.
and Carrie.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right, here we go. Yeah,
It was against the public.
could someone teach this thing? He did. So anyway, okay, let's move on to the next subject, which is ad hoc committees and working groups. We do have one sort of relatively meaty subject that we'd like to talk about, which is the land use standing committee that we've had. It was an ad hoc in the beginning, then it was a steering committee, there was lots of discussion back and forth. We need to really think about that again. There have been times when there hasn't been a need for the meeting.
Yeah.
The way that, and so it gets canceled and the public's like, I thought we're doing this all the time and why isn't there a meeting?
In fact,
Can we make?
just about every meeting in 2025 and 2024 and 2023 were canceled.
Right.
One each year.
Right.
Yeah, and they didn't, well, we had 2 this year, but they weren't about permits or things coming forward.
Why can't we just have a special meeting called?
Well, or we could do that, but then remember it's a whole other.
I know, it
Okay.
helps the crowd.
The other thing we could do is like, it was structured so very broadly from land use, right? But if there is a land use issue
Oh, specific.
that is in hacienda, right? We could create an ad hoc about that particular thing. That ad hoc could collect feedback on that issue from, especially from the constituents in that community and bring it back to the map.
I think that's a good idea, but I think part of the problem, but you're, maybe, sorry, tell me if I'm wrong about this, is the information coming in to us in order to respond.
Correct.
So I'm not sure that's helped by, having specific items.
I
Because if
think
we don't
part-
find out about things, we can't move on.
And I think that's an issue independent of ad hoc.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're not gonna solve that.
And part of what the challenge has been is the timeline. We would receive things at the D5 office, but it wouldn't be timely because it would have been just past a land use meeting that was canceled for nothing being on it, and then there wasn't another one for a month and a half. So, I think it would help because things would come in and we would immediately be able to start to form an ad hoc. And so I think it would allow us to be more nimble and pull it together. Instead of just expecting those permits to come at the right time.
And it kind of makes sense to me, if it's something going on in your own community, you want to be on that, right?
Yeah.
You're not on the committee, or now, you're not on the committee, even though it could be an option. So anyway, that's what I.
So we would dissolve the standing committee.
Yeah.
And we would form as needed.
As needed ad hoc on any given land use issue.
Wasn't Patty the vice chair on that?
Yes, I had this conversation with Patty and she's in support of moving it in this direction.
Okay. I think Mike is too.
Yeah, I spoke with both of them. He was vice chair of the land use committee, so we kind of worked it out, observing what the challenges were with land use and why we weren't able to get traction with it, and this is the outcome.
Hey, and if it doesn't work, we can change it next time.
Yeah.
Or we can change it
We
mid-year.
can change it
We
mid-year.
can change it in 2 months.
But how do we dissolve?
I'm making a motion.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Standing committee? I move to dissolve the standing committee on land use.
I second.
All in favor? Now we don't need to do.
We do, Craig is still
Oh.
on, so I will do a roll call vote. Pip,
Yes.
Tony,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Betsy, yes. Craig,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Lonnie,
Yes.
and Carrie, yes.
That's a good solution, I like.
We won't appoint one right now because we don't have a specific use.
Right.
But please, if there is something going in your community, like Debbie or me or Jay or somebody know, so we can try to get moving as quickly as we possibly can.
And also, I track things that come in
Yeah.
from Permit Sonoma, so I can also reach out to you.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, what is the purpose of these ad hoc boards and land use committee? It seems like, okay, something is in the permitting process, so this is a way to make sure that the community knows what's going on during that moment where it's open. comment. Is that- is it like-
Yeah, and it's like, things like, otherwise we can narrow them, we can bring those people out here.
Yeah.
to talk about it. Okay.
Other question I have, if I can, one is, when they're created, is the group, I mean, structured through notes and meetings, but it's public knowledge or how does, you know?
Yeah, it's an action,
Okay,
so it'll show up on the minutes.
so that's the only way for like somebody in the public to know that there's an ad hoc created group.
And well, an ad hoc can only be made up of members of the MAC.
Right.
So the public, yeah.
Right, just, you know, I'm understood, and then,
I'll just say that what I would do in that circumstance is put it out on social media that we're forming this about this specific thing.
Give us feedback.
Give us feedback.
Contact me individually, not us.
thank you, that was one of the pieces I was looking for, and then, as a member of the committee, is there a listing of current ad hoc, you know, so like to educate ourselves and then
There's none right now.
It's not kept up to date.
Okay, great.
I don't know if this is answered part of your first question, but the ad hoc would be created during one of these. meetings,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Right, and
Okay.
Limited, like, so.
right,
like,
And it would likely, if there, I mean, it's not required, but also if there's been talk about the need for an ad hoc, it would probably be also on the agenda of a meeting, discussion about the formation of this particular ad.
Chair, if I may, just taking a step back, you said, you see something in your community, let us know. I know we were talking about permits, but we're in storm time right now. There's a lot of public infrastructure issues. Same thing. We don't know about it unless you let us know. Please reach out to me. Let me know if there's a problem. We'll get on it. We'll begin to this.
That's true.
Right.
So I have a just brief question.
Yep.
Debbie, you and I had a conversation the other day, we talked about the community engagement.
Yeah, I would love to bring that up during this meeting.
Okay,
Bring that up too.
Okay, so it's been brought up. The need, each year, an ad hoc is formed because the MAP needs to review the community engagement and outreach plan document, make any updates to it, and then bring it back to the MAC. So if we could tonight get 4 or 5, if I was a student.
Well, maybe we can, for those people who weren't here before, talk about what the community.
I did send Carrie the existing community engagement plan, and I sent it to Faye also, because I knew that the rest of you had a copy of it from before.
And
So
Craig
and Craig, did I send you a copy? I'm sorry, did I send you a copy of the community engagement plan? I may not have.
No.
Because
Uh-uh.
I think at the time I thought that Pat wanted to be here. I'm so sorry. It sounds like.
It's quite all right.
You, but I will also get it to you. The
Thank you.
2020. Yeah.
Great.
So are we asking, can we form one
to
tonight for
review the
twenty
community
25?
engagement plan,
Pardon?
to review the plan.
Yeah, and make recommendations on change this year.
Yes.
right? Do we have anyone that wants to be on an ad hoc? There we go. 1, 2, 3. There's 3.
We have Carrie, we have Vicky, and we have Betsy. So we could have one more, if anybody else, or we could leave it open and maybe, I don't know, if Patty would want to
Patty probably wants
be on it.
Can I miss her best friend? May I just?
Yeah.
No, but we could add. What's that?
And her little dog too.
So the important thing is that we form it, we have a core group of people, that person in between now and then, I believe. Correct? That means,
Oh, no. Yeah, you can. And then I don't think we would have to vote you in. If you want to join it, we could just put you, we could copy you on it and so we'll just.
Your input is really
It's really important. Yeah. Very much.
You don't trust the board. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I get a motion that we will form an ad hoc to review the communication plan and the outreach plan, make any recommendations for any changes happening for 2025? We'll do that first. And second, okay, all in favor, let's do quick roll call.
Who was the second?
Betty.
Okay. Spencer first. Okay, Pip.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
Vicky.
Yes.
Lonnie.
Yes.
Carrie.
And then second part is that the members that have agreed to be part of the ad hoc are Betsy, Vicky, Carla, Harry, sorry. And then we will add Faye as the student representative, and there has been, we should put this in the minutes that in principle, we are going to ask Patty if she wants to join. And all members are okay with that, we'll add that to the thing, and then so I think in between now and then, we can put her on. Something to get a motion for that?
Did we just do that?
No, we did the ad hoc committee
So moved.
for those members.
Oh,
The second,
for the committee,
and then we put the members.
and then we put the members.
Yeah.
Seconded.
Yeah.
So did the same people first?
That's you first.
Betsy.
Move by-
When we voted, weren't we supposed to talk to somebody?
I think we could have done it that way. We could have just formed it as one with the, but that's okay. Betsy and then Spencer.
Did anyone have a comment about that?
Okay. So like there's a different color for this vote, right? Here we go. Okay, Pip.
Yeah. Oh, yes, sorry.
Tony.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah, we're voting to put these people on the committee. Joe. Spencer.
Yes.
Betsy. Yes. Craig.
Yes.
Vicky.
Yes.
Lonnie.
Yes.
And Carrie. Yeah. Okay.
Yippee. Okay, we are gonna move on to the consent agenda and basically approving the last meeting minutes. I'm sure every one of you has read it, read them.
And if not, you can abstain.
Yeah. And if you were not at the last meeting, you can abstain.
There was
Or
one
you should have.
typo that
Oh,
I was not late.
that's right, you mentioned that.
Ty and I came
Yes,
together.
right, okay, I would fix that. Thank you.
I thought there was something that was a little confusing to me. Number 2, or sorry, on the consent agenda, number 4 at the bottom of page 1. It says October 10, 2024 regular meeting minutes, but then goes to the November minutes were approved with a correction to a typo.
Oh,
We did approve 2 sets of minutes.
And then it says the motion failed with the following vote, and there's no.
oh, because I didn't fill it in, thank you, that is very
Good,
wrong.
good catch.
It's that, okay. Okay,
Read legal documents all day.
thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or corrections? Does someone move to approve So minutes from the last meeting with the adjustments that we just.
I move to approve the,
Second.
with the correction.
All right, let's do roll call.
So let me just mark down, it was Lonnie
Yeah.
was the first, and who was the second? Okay, and so if you're going, I'm gonna read everyone's name, but if you weren't here and haven't watched the video and et cetera, feel free to say abstain. And we'll keep it as such.
Aye.
Tony,
Abstain.
Joe,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Betsy? Yes. Craig,
Abstain?
Vicky,
Yes.
Lonnie,
Yes.
and Carrie. Abstain. Thank you.
Minutes are moved.
And then there's just a closing motion.
Okay, and then there is correspondence, we have this, communication via email from the, Seven to the Light, or about the Seven to the Light, that's at the Health Palace. And it is in your packet for information. They would appreciate if we passed it along to students in the area. Anyone have any comments on that?
I'll just say there's also a few copies of it on the counter if people want to grab them on the way out. Anybody in the audience?
Anyone in the audience, any comments on this? All right, so guess what? The meeting is